Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Camera Tuesday. In today's episode we're gonna talk about Panasonic S1. So let's dive right into it. Now, first thing you have to understand, Panasonic was a very big player in Micro Four Third. So what happened here? Basically, Panasonic was gambling on the fact that sensor will be the most expensive part of a camera ecosystem. However, that turned out to be false because at this point in time, the most expensive aspect of a camera is not the sensor, is the processor. Basically, Red Epic does not use some magical sensor, but the processor that is behind it, that is the expensive part. Same goes for, let's say, Blackmagic or anything like that. Sensor is the cheap part now. So their whole ecosystem was shattered. Now, why the heck that happened? Well, think of it this way. Even though they were making quite amazing video cameras and quite amazing pocket cameras, first they were behind schedule. Basically, think of it this way. The Micro Four Third system only had 10 years. An APS-C system had 20 years. So there were much more lenses for APS-C system than there were for Micro Four Third. Even though Micro Four Third was smaller, the lenses were much more expensive. So like 1 kilogram of lens, like weight wise, as in like the material cost, it was not going through enough what we call economy of scale. It was being for full frame lenses were cheaper than Micro Four Third. So that did not bode well. Like first they needed time to like grow, mature and all that, but during that time Sony comes along and creates a like full frame mirrorless system. Again, nobody takes it seriously, but over time Sony matures, and now Sony has the luxury that because they have full frame, many professionals jump into it very easily, and on top of that people created what we call adapters. So Canon lenses can be made to work with Sony system, and that took off. Sony slowly over time started to build their own ecosystem, and at that creates the problem because Sony now gives almost same bit for bit same amount of video features than Panasonic used to do. So Panasonic also is like, yeah, now we have to go into full frame, because during this time Nikon jumped into the full frame mirrorless business. During this time Canon jumped into it. So Canon, Nikon and Sony, these three players, and they are all three now starting to invest into video functions. So Panasonic can no longer say, hey, I am the video system. So flat out Panasonic jumped into the system because sensor is the cheap part. The expensive part is the Venus engine that they have into this, the Venus processor. So processor is the expensive part. So that is why like even the this camera has 2500 US dollar in terms of cost. Panasonic GH5 has the same amount of cost. Like why? Even though sensor is like 1/4 the size, because of the processor is the expensive part. So flat out Panasonic is like, okay, I'm out. Micro Four Third was good and all, so I think they have still 2-3 models that are still in the pipeline that will be released, but over time they will fade it out. And so this system was a first foray. The sensor is from Sony, and this is 24 megapixel. It's a good starting point. This whole camera system is built as a starting point. Hey, get into our system. You can get a full frame system and just start on. Now the whole focus of this is a pro camera. Think of this way, like Sony knows how to make a pro camera, but they do not know how to make a polished pro camera. They do not have enough experience there. However, Nikon and Canon knows how to make pro camera, as in like the pro camera that people use in Olympics, the pro camera that people generalists use. So they know how to make it, but they were not putting their best foot forward in terms of mirrorless system. They are like, that's why both Canon and Nikon only gives you a single card slot. They does not give you a dual card slot, which is necessary for pro system. And don't say like it's not necessary, it is necessary. That's why Canon's own pro system have dual system, Nikon's own D800 has dual card slot. It is necessary for pro systems. Again, hopefully you never have to find out why it is necessary, but in a scenario where that happened, you will be like thankful that this has dual card system. And in terms of design language, in terms of how does it feel, everything about it is like built as a professional system. From weather sealing to doors, flaps, everything is built to make sure that, hey, this is a pro system. Like you hold it, you're like, okay, I'm holding a serious gear. From weather sealing to button sizes, like it took Sony Sony A7R Mark IV to realize, hey, people need big buttons. Like we don't manipulate our button with like tiny hands. We need big buttons that is easy to hold, easy to clarify. Like anybody who uses this type of system, the first thing they say, damn, this feels nice. Like this is really good. This is like DSLR level good. Consequence, this is also as big and heavy as DSLR. But it is a pro system. Like you hold it in your hand, you know what you're supposed to do, you know how to manipulate the camera won't fight with you, and it has pro functions, which on top of that, like compared to Nikon system, Nikon does not even have battery grip. Like the battery grip in Nikon system is just that battery grip. Here a battery grip has like a proper scroll system, proper shutter release and all that, which is necessary for pro cameras, because you have to understand, when you're twisting out, you're not gonna like, okay, here I'm gonna change the setting. You have to change the setting with your index finger itself. So quite amazing. Like they put their time into this. Like, okay, let's design system, the knobs and all that. Most of them have locks from day one. They're not like everybody's complaining, hey Sony, please give exposure lock, composition knob a lock. They're like, they fixed it like flat out. It's a pro system. They're not taking Nikon's and Canon's approach where like, hey, over time I'm gonna release pro body. No, day one pro body. So how does it appear, like if you are buying this, how does it work as a photo camera? Let's say that's all you want to do, photo camera. It's a quite capable camera. Anybody who uses it will tell you it's a quite capable camera. I have provided Jared Poland's 50-minute in-depth review. It's a quite capable camera. You will not be disappointed in it. Then it has burst mode, but again you have to understand, you have to temper your expectation here. The burst mode is not very fast. It's 6 fps. You will say 9, 10 and all that jazz disables your autofocus system and sometimes metering also. So this is the best you can get, like 6 fps. And depending on your lens, you have to understand autofocus itself is not solely responsible for everything. If your lens itself is slow, the motor of the lens itself is slow, you will not get high enough frame rate. That is the biggest issue with Fuji systems. Even though they quote 30 fps, the lens will not move. Even though they can send the signal of autofocus system, the lens is slow. That is why Sony's Pro G Master lens, one of them have like dual autofocus sensors, so that they can physically move the lens fast enough and give you high burst rate. So here, don't expect too much to be like from burst rate. Don't expect this to be a like, hey, sports camera. So if you have a lot of children running around, you're not gonna get too many photos out of that. However, Panasonic has one USP. The USP is the IBUS in this is god tier. It's on a different level. Basically, it works. It's quite amazing. On top of that, this is the only company that can properly pull off what we classify as dual IS, as in it's gonna talk to the lens and use lens itself as an image stabilization. Now you might be like, doesn't Nikon does that? Yes and no. What Nikon does is flat out disables the lateral action. Basically, this action, your lateral velocity, it says this will be taken care by the lens, and the sensor will only take care of rotation. There are 5 axes to take care of, so lens will only take care of the 2, and lens can only take care of 2 because you can't rotate a lens. It will not have any rotational data. So flat out 2 has to be done by the lens because that's the only 2 thing it can do. But Sony disables those 2 axes on the sensor system. Sony, I'm saying Nikon, but here they still move with together. So if there is a command, hey, move 5 centimeter or millimeter in this scenario, so it will send the command to both lens and the sensor. That is why it is so fluid. That is why neither Nikon nor Sony can do this properly at this point in time. None of them has figured out how to use both of them at the same time. Panasonic knows. This is like god tier level image stabilization. The only way you can get better image stabilization is you have to flat out use a gimbal system or a complicated trick. So it's on a different level. So flat out your images will rarely have any motion artifact. So it's quite amazing. Now, how about usability terms? Like, hey, I have a camera, I have to use it also. So buttons and all that, again, it's good enough. But the EVF, it's a god tier EVF. Basically, they put their time, and the first complaint that people have who are switching from DSLR to that is like, it just does not look right. You get what your sensor is getting, but it does not feel right. Like if you are looking through your EVF, and it's like, okay, and you pull your eyes out, it's like, what the hell? That's different what I'm getting here. But here they made it high enough resolution, as in 5 million points of a resolution. So it is quite good. Basically, from contrast system, from resolution, like they spend time to making sure the EVF is what we call like live view. They call it live view. Basically, it's very good. Like flat out, you won't be feel that jarring effect that people have, like because EVF has a bit of lag, a bit of color difference, a bit of contrast difference. Here, none of that issue is there. So as a basically photo camera, it's quite capable system. So what about video camera? Like Panasonic became popular because of video system. So what about that? Basically, it's a very powerful camera because like they have learned a lot of lesson from GH4, GH5 and all that, and they have put a lot of thought into this. Basically, in terms of video system, it is quite easy to use. It will not frustrate you. It will not be like, what the hell is this? It's very easy to use. You can like just start, go. Now, in terms of one thing they know from experience is that if you are doing video, you need good audio. Flat out, you need good audio. I'm using my Zoom H1n right now for recording purpose. Here also you can utilize the mic input. Now mic input, there are almost every camera nowadays has mic input, but you have to understand, like Nikon Z series has a really bad preamps. Basically the amplifier that is here inside, it's bad. Here it's so good that people have to tone down their mic output because it's so like in terms of sensitivity is quite sensitive, and allows you to get very clear signal. So it's quite awesome. On top of that, let's say you are in a studio setup or you want to use a shotgun mic. banks. On top of that hot shoe, you can put like proper XLR input system and directly feed into digital signal. So that's another level of awesome. So you have to understand, they put a lot of thought into this. Another aspect of that is like it has USB power direct, because you have to understand, even though Canon quote unquote says USB power, flat out Canon USB power is like, yeah, we will only work with our system, or some people have said that it does work with a USB power bank that can charge MacBooks. Basically the voltage is high. I think it's like it has a weird handshake, so most power banks flat out cannot do, and it will not charge at like 5 volt, it does at 21 volt. Again, that's within the like USB-C limit. USB-C is rated for 100 volts. Again, there is a handshake on that. That's why your mobile does not blow in, catch fire when you plug into, MacBook Air and all. There is a handshake. So that handshake algorithm is quite awkward in Canon system. That's why only few chargers, only few system works. But here everything will work as long as it has enough power. Of course, like it has to have enough juice to charge this. If it has that, it will work. It's like awesome. HDMI port, full size. That's awesome for anybody who's utilizing, let's say, any external recorder, or let's say you want to use this as a webcam. You can do that because it has clean output. The first thing you will realize is that micro HDMI breaks quite too often. The male jack breaks way too quickly because it's too small. Here you don't have to worry about that. It's quite awesome. So this is what I'm saying, like this is somebody spent time designing it. Hey, is it easy to use? Not just like, okay, does it sound good on spec sheet? Is it easy to use? And it also has 10-bit input, like as in 10-bit output and internal recording, which you have to understand 10-bit output is only available in Nikon system, and you have to understand Sony can only do 8-bit. This can do both internal recording and external output. But you may have to, like for advanced features, you may have to buy a firmware to upgrade that feature. So if this camera is quite capable in terms of photography, it's quite capable in terms of videography, why the hell it has not taken over the YouTube world same way GH5 has done? Well, you have to understand, Panasonic's biggest Achilles heel is their autofocus system. They are still relying on contrast autofocus. Now, those of you who have basically Nikon DSLRs, they know what contrast autofocus looks like. Tick, took, tick, took, tick, took. Now, their idea was that instead of doing this many steps, they will have depth from defocus, something like that. Basically, they will make big leaps, and they will directly settle on the focus point very quickly. Does this work? Yes. Does this work? No. I'm like, what? So basically, even if it locks on the focus, it will miss after that. It still has that hunting issue that you like, even though like in this sort of scenario, you can have like one point autofocus, and it's like, okay, focus and stop. Awesome. The moment you activate continuous autofocus, everything around me will like vibrate. It will fluctuate. Because of that, it will still have that oscillation. Fundamentally, this is a stupid system. The reason Panasonic is giving like, hey, why you are using that is basically this makes their sensor cheaper, because if you want to have basically phase detect sensor points itself, the sensor itself becomes expensive. Sony is their manufacturer, and that is the reason Sony can do that so easily on their sensor, but Panasonic has to buy from Sony, so they have to figure out how they're gonna keep the price low. Otherwise the sensor might become like big chunk of their investment. So they are using contrast, and it does have one advantage, that you will never see banding. No matter what you do, you will not see banding. And if you are seeing banding is coming externally, either by the faulty software or by a flickering light or something like that. You will never see banding. So it does have that advantage, but flat out autofocus is not as reliable. Like the autofocus reliability would be at 90%. Like, isn't 90% good enough? Yeah, it would have been good enough in 2008 or in 2010 or in 2012 to 13, because at that point every camera started to reach 99%. Basically, you will rarely get one or two out of focus. Most of the time, most of the things will be in focus. And compared to Sony, this is a joke. Compared to Nikon is outperforming this. And in terms of Canon comparison, well, this is a joke. So you have to understand, flat out, that is the reason people cannot use this as a run and gun setup. Can you make a movie out of it? Of course, because movie people generally have a manual of focus, so you can use. But for you and me, for most general use, yeah, it's not flat out. On top of that, let's say you have time, you have the luxury, hey, like I'm just chilling out, I don't have to rush everything. So the L mount alliance, basically using Leica full frame lens mount, partnering with Sigma, so Sigma can make first party lens. This will be the first time Sigma can classify, hey, I'm making the first party lens, I'm not the third party in this. and Panasonic, all three teamed up. So the idea was, the moment Panasonic will release their system, there will be a lot of lenses out there in the market. Now, is that true? Yes, you can buy Leica lenses. However, the cost of Leica lens is so high, you can get proper cinema lens for cheaper. So flat out, Leica lens is just for show off system. Here on this scenario, they have to Panasonic release three lenses. So as of now, if you want to buy reasonably priced lenses, there are not enough. Flat out, there is not enough. And even Sigma is saying it will take January to 2020, where they will release enough of them. So again, in future, it may become a solved issue, not an issue where they will have multiple systems. But right now, you do not have enough to go on. And this was the same issue with Sony, but Sony is such a big company that they can lose money for a very long term, and then they start making profit. So at this point in time, Sony has more or less the same lens market profile as Canon or Nikon. Like again, only few lenses are missing, like few micro lenses, few macro lenses and few telephoto lenses, but almost big chunks they have taken care of. So at this point in time, you can only get like 70 to 200 f4. 70 to 200 is very popular lens system. So why the heck they made it 70 to 200 f4? It should have been 70 to 200 f2.8, because that is very popular, like flat out. Many people just utilize that lens only. So on top, then you can get 50mm nifty 50, but that's f1.4, quite good system. But you have to understand, you don't have enough option here, and no flip out screen. Now this fundamentally pisses people off, simply because Panasonic is known for video. They know, they started the trend of having proper flip out screen, and as a video camera like that, you have to have that. And here they did not give that, because they holded the that feature for their Panasonic S1H system. S1H has flip out screen. So this was a really crappy move. This is like triple hammer from Canon kind of scenario. So that also kind of rubbed people in the wrong way. On top of that, the software upgrade key was really bad, because this is a $2,500 camera, and you still have to get around 180 euro, some places $200 of a software key if you buy the camera after 30 September. If you buy the camera before 30 September 2019, you don't have to worry about the upgrade will be free. But if you buy the camera after that, you will not get that upgrade license key. So these are the reason why this camera is not taking over YouTube, even though it's quite capable camera. Flat out, the autofocus is nowhere near Sony, nowhere near Canon, nowhere even near Nikon, because Nikon is also not doing that well. But there is like bit more, like you can put your trust in Nikon system much more than you can put in Panasonic system. And then you don't have the lens option. You simply don't have lens option. No flip out screen. So why the heck you will do the video system in this? Software key is needed for unlocking, and 200 euros is not cheap. So for these reasons, it has not become the next big thing. Same way GH5 was. So this was my presentation on Panasonic S1 series. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I would urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your extra disappointment, and please leave a comment, because I reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.